Hello, I'm the Angry Spork. Across iterations, Krypton has met its end in several different ways. Ecological disaster, depletion of resources. Given the multiverse, at least one had to have been a gender reveal party gone horribly wrong. But what if a certain World Eater was the culprit? I'm taking issue with Superman/Fantastic Four, where the Man of Tomorrow goes to Marvel's first family to get some answers. Let's see if this comic makes us want to turn the page, or turn our heads. The cover is a wraparound painted by Alex Ross, penciled by the book's writer. So yeah, it's really good. Krypton is exploding in the background, Galactus reaches out at our heroes, and it looks like Mr. Fantastic is copying Superman's pose. Not even the smartest man in the world can help being a dorky fanboy around Clark. Writing and layout art by Dan Jurgens, with artists Art Thibert and Greg Wright, we begin in the past, as Galactus watches Krypton's destruction, ever only concerned with satiating his own hunger. He had leftovers from a previous planet, but it was 3 days past the sell-by date, and he didn't want to risk anything. He detects a small vessel carrying a life form within, obviously baby Kal-El, who might be of use to the big guy in the future. Such is the foresight and knowledge of Galactus. That, and Jurgens let him read ahead in the script in exchange for sparing Earth. He forges together a craft, infuses it with power, and sends it to carry out its intentions years later when it may be necessary. We jump to the present, when the probe reaches the vicinity of Earth and ejects a glowing green crystal that begins zipping the rest of the way, until a silhouetted figure that was just chilling on a LexCorp satellite gives chase and grabs it. And that's how you win space Quidditch. In Metropolis, Captain Maggie Sawyer and a specialized team of officers are dealing with a large, elaborately designed bomb. Get the shields in place, Collins. Why bother? He's sure to show up any second to handle this. Unfortunately, Collins is thinking of a different hero. Captain Cable! Nearby citizens and tourists are of the same mind as the slacker cop, many having arrived from out of town to specifically see Superman as he arrives on the scene. And by the looks of it, he invented dabbing, and now I don't know how to feel. His X-ray vision sees that there's an internal timer and that the bomb is nuclear. Evacuation is pointless, so he heat visions the timer into slag, preventing the detonation, but then detects a nearby radio signal being used to try setting it off with a backup device. Fortunately, he also melted the receiver mechanism and goes to confront the terrorists responsible on a rooftop. They fire ineffective energy weapons, shout "Death to America," blah blah blah, and is about to apprehend them when he feels a searing pain, followed by the green crystal floating in front of him, recognizing it as Kryptonian. And it's not like Clark ever had a negative experience with any rocks from his birth planet that also glowed green, right folks? A hologram of his father appears, saying he was wrong about his planet's demise resulting from natural causes. It was actually murder! Jor-El says Krypton's deterioration was accelerated by Galactus feeding himself, and it's the dead scientist's hope that Kal has become powerful enough to stop his devouring of worlds. As the hologram fades away, begging to be avenged, Soups mentions having heard whispers of the giant entity from heroes of the other universe, but didn't consider he'd ever visit his own. Since that threat may one day arrive at this Earth, he decides to consult some experts to find Galactus, and for that, he'll need Access. If you're new here, Access was a character who debuted in the big DC vs. Marvel event from the mid-90s, and was given the ability to walk between the big Two's universes. He does not appear in this story. Hey, Soups, you gonna do something about those masked morons who planted a nuke in the middle of the city? No? I guess when narration said that pain made him forget about the terrorists, they weren't kidding. We jump to the Marvelverse, specifically Pier 4, warehouse base for the Fantastic Four, where we see Franklin Richards playing with some action figures from both publishers, an open comic book, and watching a Superman cartoon on a really weird-looking screen. It's mostly vertical and cuts off on 2 angles on the left side. Human eyes are horizontal, and that design clearly cuts out footage. Did Reed design this while he was drunk or something? I thought maybe it was supposed to be a panel, but the reflection of light suggests it's part of the wall. Anyway, the kid was told by his mom that Superman may be a fictional character on their world, but he's real on another, and excitedly goes to tell his Uncle Ben about the episode he missed. "Great day in the morning, Franklin! When is Stretcho finally gonna fix that flaming bathroom door?" He's actually in the middle of a test that requires him to hold a 12-ton weight, which he's been doing an hour longer than anticipated. But hey, Franklin's got his priorities straight. Cartoons! I love that Grimm is genuinely disappointed he missed an episode of Superman. Truly, he appreciates the finer things in life. Susan takes her son to get a snack, while Reed continues trying to pinpoint any difference in power levels between Ben and the Human Torch. I guess his scouter is on the fritz. Franklin asks about Superman when Sue notices the building's defenses have been turned off, and the boy knows not to mess with that stuff. She sets up a shield in case there's an intruder. "If someone's looking for trouble, they're gonna find plenty with the Fantastic Four, ain't they, Mommy?" "Don't say ain't, Franklin, or else your father will put that brain helmet on you again." "Listen to your mother, son. She's right." And Superman has let himself in. "Poor grammar gets you thrown out of a moving train. By me." Ben and Johnny are flabbergasted by their guest, but of course Mr. Fantastic is more interested in the idea that Galactus may have ventured into other universes, and that green crystal that Supes is carrying. Its energy begins lashing out, affecting the lab equipment and causing the hydraulic press to malfunction, starting to crush the thing. A voice laughs, taunting Supes as energy turrets powerful enough to cut adamantium target Franklin, who's swiftly shielded by Big Blue before Susan takes over. "I assume your defense systems don't normally turn on you." "Either Dr. Doom is trying to kill us, or this is an experiment Reed forgot about. 50-50 chance, really." When Johnny's attempts to free Ben are upended by a high-tech water hose, Kent simply busts the contraption apart.
"All sure, smash the smart guy's machine."
An energy blast narrowly misses Reed, fired from an apparently alien craft that would have been picked up by their sensors were they not compromised. Another blast hits Superman, turning him gold before he disappears. Reed realizes the strange vessel must have been sent by Galactus, but the manipulation of their defenses is courtesy of another, someone who begins constructing a body from the best tech he's found on any Earth, whose own brush with cosmic rays gave him mastery over technology and hatred for the last son of Krypton. Hank Henshaw, a.k.a. Cyborg Superman. "I should have assumed Galactus had an ally who infiltrated the building. Though I'm not in league with the Big G, I admit I have every intention of becoming so. I was wondering if you could write me a letter of recommendation." "Superman knows you better than we do. Why not ask him?" "Ah, son of a..." While Reed and Ben attempt to restrain the enemy, Johnny has intercepted the strange craft to get answers from the pilot. However, only Supes is inside, who tries to break out, but held at bay by Galactus. And when Henshaw tries to interfere, replace his nemesis as the Giant's chosen, he's stopped thanks to one of Susan's invisible fields. As Clark is transformed, Galactus wants it known he has allied with another. "No longer must I scour the cosmos alone. Now I have someone to laugh at my hilarious Mad Libs." The Metamorphosis remakes Superman as the World Eater's new herald. Less a silver surfer and more a gold flyer. The power cosmic combined with his already formidable attributes and having no will other than his master's. Dr. Richards tries to keep him from leaving, but winds up teleporting with him to his new boss. Sue wants information from Henshaw, nicely confined in an invisible capsule, like a supersized Advil. Torch is hesitant to trust a guy who'd willingly work for the most dangerous being in the universe, and Ben was already itching to bust him up before Hank bragged about destroying an entire city. But he did inhabit that crystal Galactus created, thus enabling him to track their location, and is offering his help. Sue agrees, letting him go as long as he follows her orders, with the others backing her up. Meanwhile, on Galactus's ship, Reed tries to reach any lingering humanity in Golden Supes, get him to fight this control. "None may fight the will of Galactus. You may instead tickle fight the Steve of Galactus." Even when he left Krypton when Kal was still an embryo, apparently, the Devourer knew it was Supes' destiny to serve him, the most powerful minion, to find planets suitable for feeding. Reed continues his pleas, asking him to think of those depending on him, those he loves, which does spark a recollection of Lois Lane. Sadly, Galactus's eye beams finalize the change, and Clark goes out to start his first day on the job. Richards holds him back, saying innocents like the Lois he mentioned die from Galactus's hunger every day, and he shouldn't be a part of it. No luck as he gets zapped for interfering.
Go, my herald, forward the vastness of space. Find me that which I crave.
Immediately. I shall gather all the McRibs in the galaxy for you, Master. Our brainwashed hero leaves as Mr. Fantastic scolds Galactus for sullying the memory of a dead planet by using its sole survivor this way. But Krypton already bears the imprint of the big guy's visit, so he doesn't care, seeming to confirm he consumed that world. Back on Earth, Henshaw has enhanced an FF rocket ship with a warp drive so it can pursue their targets, though his flippant attitude towards Sue makes Ben want to slug him even more. And what better time to get readers acquainted with this crimson cuss than comparing and contrasting his origins with the team's, where his reading crew gained new powers from cosmic radiation and chose to fight for humanity. Henshaw's team died, and though he survived as a disembodied intelligence, he resented the loss of his body and how his return drove his wife to self-terminate, so chose to war on mankind and Superman.
Sad to see what happens when a kid gets traumatized during potty training there, Tin Man. Who told you? I don't know what you're talking about.
Franklin offers his Superman figure to Susan for good luck as they leave the kid in the care of his interdimensional warrior nanny, Caledonia, who also doesn't appear in this book. And he asks his Unca Ben to give Galactus a good whack for him.
Well, I must say that whacking, whatever it is, sounds most disagreeable.
They take off, with Thing in the pilot seat because Susie's still in charge, as we go to the Gold Boy Scout, now intoxicated by the power cosmic, with no distance or hostile environments that might have previously held him back. Though he can't take any joy in finding a new planet, instead informing his new boss about it after checking its suitability. Soon, Galactus's elemental converter is assembled to turn the world into pure energy, but asks if his new herald chose it because there's no life. Clark says the choice was based solely on his master's own criteria, so they carry on, until the F4 rocket arrives, and Johnny gets the unenviable task of trying to distract a mind-controlled Superman.
Hey, Soups, you look like an Oscar statue from the reject bin.
Susan and Ben try to keep the Purple Planet Eater's attention on them. Henshaw contemplates how he can gain access to all the entity's power, and Reed is stuck inside a sealed, transparent box. All those years of mine school really should have prepared him for this, and yet... The fight is short and doesn't end well for our heroes, unable to stop the converter, and Torch getting tossed to the ground.
Where the heck's that half-robot creepo? He's supposed to be helping us.
Sounds to me like someone's got a case of the Sposdas.
Henshaw chimes in, saying they need to retreat and prepare for the next fight, and though neither Johnny nor Grimm like that idea, especially since they haven't found Reed, Sue begrudgingly agrees with the cyborg, saying they need to win the war, so take off to a safe distance. The 35-million-year-old planet is siphoned, feeding Galactus while being reduced to a lifeless husk. All the potential future life never to be, and something starts troubling Superman, an echo of his past. I forgot. Perry's expecting my report on the Metropolis Puppy Bowl tomorrow. But the planet was too young to be all that nourishing, so Galactus sends his errand boy back out to find a living world with more energy. Soup seems to try a counter-argument, but follows orders, as Mr. Fantastic, still unable to escape, wonders if this is all as hopeless as it seems. The rocket is on their trail, the team prepared to give a tougher fight if Galactus targets a populated world, and Grimm is set off by another snide comment from Henshaw. Susan separates them, warning that she'll personally string both of them up if they make the situation any worse. Hours later, after detecting a sizable energy surge, they arrive at an inhabited world about to be eaten, Galactus praising his new herald as the best ever. Yet Soups questions what'll happen to the people, how his master must have a soul. But Galactus only cares for his own survival. Courtesy of an invisible platform, the Thing is about to clock Soups, only to get an epic backhand that sends him flying into the World Eater's base.
Such a mighty wallop.
The Man of Gold then fires on his boss, not wanting to be part of a genocide, So Galactus zaps his latest betrayer. Every herald you create eventually does this to you, dude. Eventually you gotta consider if maybe you're the problem. The thing collided with Reed's prison, which the Egghead surmises may have been intentional, as it created a breach through which he can stretch, so he immediately gets working on a new device.
Nerd!
Having seen Kent change sides, despite the whole knocking Ben away thing, Torch and Susan try to delay Galactus and its converter. While Clark notices Franklin's toy that Sue apparently took with her into battle, now that's just negligent, Henshaw has infiltrated Galactus's vessel, marveling at the technology and keen to master it to make himself equal to the Devourer. He's ensnared by Richards, hit with a pulse disruptor he cobbled together, and it does sting the villain, though not incapacitate, as he blasts Reed to free himself. That's when Aunt Petunia's favorite blue-eyed nephew gets to say something to Wires for Brains that he's been prevented from getting off his rocky chest all day. That he looks like a Korean knockoff Terminator figure. No, of course,
It's clobbering time!
sending Henshaw into a wall. Meanwhile, the power cosmic begins leaving Superman, and once gone would leave him helpless and immobile were it not for his courage and a child's reminder of what he stands for and where he comes from. Little known fact, Clark has a birthmark on the bottom of his foot that reads, Made in China. The Fantastic Four finally reunite with little time to waste.
Is this group exclusive, or do you have room for one more?
Want to sign up full-time, Superman?
Not hard to replace that S shield with a 5.
Oh, no. See, on my world, the S stands for hope, but a 5 stands for something that cannot be said in polite company, or impolite company. Please don't make me say it.
This scene of them banding together is legitimately cool, but the scans are not great. No offense to whoever did it, but it seems they were trying to fix certain issues after they scanned it, only to create others, so it's not the best representation of the art. Anyway, Clark says what jarred him loose of Galactus' control was not wanting other planets to be snuffed out like Krypton was, but the Giant calls that an errant assumption as he hits the 5 of them with an energy burst. Neither down nor out, Sue sets up an invisible shield to prevent Galactus from joining together his ignition devices, which will stall his energy feed, while Thing lists the ground beneath him to shake up his footing. And considering the size of the enemy, that's pretty freaking impressive. Meanwhile, Soups and Richards head inside the ship to mess with the absorption machinery, not destroy it like Clark intended, but manipulate it per Reed's instructions. He's only doing that which any living organism does, whatever he must to survive.
Why are you defending me? I am not. Understanding you does not mean that I agree with you.
Just as Sue has reached her limit, her husband says it's okay to drop the barrier, and so the irreversible process begins, and Galactus expects to eat well. But...
Something is wrong. It's supposed to play smooth jazz while I consume a planet, and I'm getting Hungarian polka. What gives?
With the help of Superman's strength, Reed reversed the mechanisms of his converter, so now energy is being drained from the behemoth into the planet. Gotta wonder if that's going to affect the global ecology or something, but whatever. Soups tells him to leave this sector before he loses more energy, and to only feed on deserted planets from here on out. Not typically one to bargain, the World Eater is convinced this is his only choice, and agrees to their terms so Reed will end the transference. However, Clark feels he should pay for destroying Krypton. Watch their intense legal battle on the next episode of Space People's Court. Galactus was hankering for some Krypton, but it was already gone when he got there, and that crystal he sent was only supposed to retrieve Kal. It didn't originally possess any information about him having that world for dinner. Ben figures Henshaw can elucidate that point, carried by the neck while his powers are still suppressed by Reed's disruptor, so he'd better confess.
Confess? That would imply I had something to hide.
You didn't exactly bring up the important details you're about to give everyone, so it seems like you kinda did, you bipedal carburetor. He admits fabricating the message in order to agitate the Boy Scout enough to go after Galactus. Do the Scouts endorse seeking revenge? Maybe I should ask my nephew. Anyway, he hid inside the crystal to secretly hitchhike across realities and get some of the Cosmic Giant's power. Hank begs his prospective boss to imbue him with the power cosmic, give him the perfection he deserves. Galactus is like, "'Kay," and I zaps him until he's nothing more than a red block. Amazing! A flawless alloy condensed into a form of simple perfection, probably without thought or consciousness. Wait, you can only download apps if you create an Apple account. Forget what I said about perfection, it's useless. Our heroes return to Pier 4 and an overjoyed Franklin, who gets his Superman figure back from the real deal. Without it as a reminder, I might not have made it back.
Wow, you mean something I did?
Yes, but the same thing would have happened if someone had played some John Williams music. Yeah, that's the stuff. Now, if your mother will permit me to give you a gift...
Did you finish all your vegetables?
She's right again, Franklin. They have the nutrients to help you grow big and strong.
I was talking to you, Superman.
What? You see...
The comic concludes on an awesome splash page of the team watching Superman fly off to head back to his own universe, while Franklin holds his gift, Clark's iconic cape. That was Superman/Fantastic Four, and it was a great read. Admittedly, there are some things that are a tad eyebrow-raising, like Clark being so invested in a vendetta against Galactus, a guy he could have only heard about briefly during past crossovers, that he seems to just forget there were nuke-capable terrorists right there. Those weird lasers didn't hurt you, but that wouldn't necessarily be true of the Metropolis PD, farm boy. Also, I wonder what kind of payment he expected when he still thought Galactus ate Krypton. Not only did this seem a bit uncharacteristically vindictive for him, but what's the big guy gonna do? Plant some trees on worlds he doesn't consume? And characters like Access and Caledonia get mentions but no visual appearances, or editor's notes for context, which could be a bit confusing for anyone unfamiliar with either one of them. I had to look up Caledonia to discover that she's a Marvel character, so, much to my surprise, Franklin was not being supervised by a Wisconsin suburb. There's some grandiose dialogue, such as from the Devourer, outlining what he's doing for the reader, even though one imagines he's done it a zillion times before, but somehow it feels natural, like it fits with his character, even if it is laying on the exposition a tad thick. And Henshaw's dialogue felt a little inconsistent, most often reading like some snobbish boarding school alum, very proper, very formal, but calling Galactus Big G and saying Ben was hiding behind a skirt sound far less regal. However, those oddities don't detract from the positives. We have a reasonable catalyst that calls Superman into action, a sinister plan by one of his foes to gain more power, a startling turn of events where Clark is forced into servitude under someone whose very life depends on wiping out planets, and a connection to his origins that plays very well into the story. While the twist of Henshaw's deception was good, I felt Jurgens was a bit intentionally deceptive to play up the Krypton tension. Galactus said that planet already bore the imprints of his visit, only to later claim it was gone by the time he arrived. Even if you generously suggest that he meant gone, as in already exploding and therefore unable to be absorbed, it feels like he kind of lied to Richards, heavily suggesting he had some impact on the world's fate when he really didn't. You could still have the misdirect if he instead said the planet's fate was sealed long ago, or something similarly vague. Galactus is referred to as a force of nature, and while I'm no expert, I don't think he would lie, because forces of nature don't need to lie. Heck, I'll even accept that Cyborg Superman's fate wasn't really a lie, because he cheekily asked to be perfect, and apparently the World Eater's definition of that word is guy who stuck his nose into my grand plans gets turned into an unliving paperweight, and I guess we have to assume Reed or Soups took it with him. Which further makes me wonder if that was a copy of Hank's consciousness the whole time, while he stayed in the DC universe waiting to see how things turned out. He does make appearances after this, so unless this wasn't meant to be too closely tied to canon, one wonders how he came back. Nevertheless, all characters are nicely represented. Soups interacts with the Four incredibly well, or you might say, fantastically. And the buildup of Ben being stopped from cleaning Henshaw's clock made the payoff of his eventual clobbering all the more chef's kiss. I also unironically loved The Thing being a fan of Superman, enjoying the cartoon as much as Franklin does. It's not just that I enjoy when powerful bruisers have their softer sides, know how to be gentle, or be big kids at heart, but it's a nice view in the family dynamic, that he has something fun he can share with his godchild. And corny as it is, it's nice that a simple bauble of a kid who admired him played a role in Clark fighting off Galactus' control. The art is great with vibrant colors, unique designs, and while there were a lot of 2-page spreads, many of which I think were vertical and I've never been a big fan of those, they mostly felt necessary because, well, the main antagonist dwarfs skyscrapers, so that often needs ample page space. I absolutely recommend this book for its great pacing, wonderful visuals, effective writing, and while it does get cheesy, it's overall worthwhile. It's definitely one of the better crossovers between the big two. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.